Marc, take it away.
We'd like to ask you about the incredible cast you put together, and each of the major characters contributes so much to the comedic timing of the film. How did you cast this film?
So a lot of the actors were actually repeat actors that I've worked with previously on my short films. That was one thing that I was adamant about doing because when you do an independent film, you can't really run the risk of having someone suck, because if they suck, it will ruin your film. So I brought back people that I just knew would kill it, specifically Lance. I'd worked with him in the past. We became friends. I think he's hilarious. I knew he would be great for this. We did audition people. I did audition some people as well using Actors Access and auditioning people online here in LA. But I brought back a lot of actors knowing they would kill it. But I actually found Vancy on Instagram because I was casting for that and it was such a specific role. And in the script, she's an older lady and she's a cougar and she's evil and she's country and Southern Dolly Parton, a little bit of Blanche Dubois. So it was a little tough finding the right person. So then my buddy recommended a drag queen for the role. And I thought, that's something I didn't think about. That could be hilarious. And it adds another element to it. And we kind of looked at a few, and then my assistant found Vancy online, and I'm not kidding you, she showed up on the Zoom, the first read we did, full makeup, and I'm like, you are this character, this is insane, and she killed it right away. I did make her read maybe one more time before I made my final decision, but I knew, I was like, this is it. And yeah, a lot of the other actors, there were a couple others that I found, and I will say, like, I really enjoyed working with everybody on this and hoping to bring them back for more projects and keep working with, my favorite people.
Real Hard feels like the 90s got drunk, borrowed a detective hat, and stumbled into Hollywood. Was that the vibe we're going for, or did that just happen naturally?
I love old school Hollywood and booze, so I think you hit the nail on the head there.
What was the biggest creative challenge in making a film about a film, especially one centered around a mythical artifact?
I think to me, the biggest challenge of this project was doing it independently with not enough money or people. That is what I'll always say. And I'm still traumatized from it. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm still recovering. But the creative challenge, I wouldn't so much call it a challenge. I like reveled in that. Like I was so excited once I sort of knew that this was what I wanted to do. It kind of started from actually my all-time favorite comedy is Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. And it has just been my favorite film since I was a kid. I could quote every line from that movie. I think I styled my whole comedic timing off Jim Carrey as a child. So I started from like, look, if I'm going to do my own feature, I want it to be a movie as good as Ace Ventura that I can watch if I'm in a good mood, if I'm in a bad mood, something classic like that. And so I just started researching like, okay, pet detective, that's a ridiculous job, What are other ridiculous jobs people have? And I started thinking about different things, and the idea of a detective who only solves crimes in the film industry sort of came up. As that came up, I started researching like old school Hollywood, and I knew that I needed a scandal, right? And it kind of just made sense with like what's happening now with the streaming wars, with what happened back then with TV taking over and people stopping to go to the movies. And it just, the synapses are firing and you're like, hair sticking up. I'm like, I'm onto something here. And then I needed my big sort of mystical element. And I got that kind of inspired from Indiana Jones and really studied Indiana Jones. The Last Crusade is my favorite. I've always loved that, but I love all three of them. So I thought like, okay, I want something mystical, but I didn't want anything in this movie to be too religious or anything that would like divide people. I wanted it to be like a nice, fun comedy that anybody could laugh at. So that's why I went with Greek mythology for the kind of background of the ancient horn, which is a very similar to an artifact maybe you would see in an Indiana Jones film. And that, I think, as you can see, that became the fun of this project, blending so many of my interests, which is probably why GeekFest loves it as well, because I am a geek, as growing up with all these movies. But ultimately making it something that was new and fresh and its own thing. So it's not like a scary movie parody, but it does pay homage to a lot of these things, but it does it in a way, hopefully, like we've never seen before. It done in a modern tone.
You wrote the film, sorry, you seamlessly wove the story in all the humor and Lance's deadpan delivery. What were the challenges of creating such a script, such a tight script?
I was also under a kind of a deadline too, because I gave myself this timeline of doing the project and I spoke to my DP who only had availability under this time frame. So it was like around Christmas, I tasked myself with writing the whole feature. And then I think we shot in April. So I had like maybe shared like a second or third draft with people. And then once I had it casted, I made a couple more tweaks. So I should say like the process that I did, the following, I think maybe a year or two previously, every time around Christmas, I don't have any family in LA, so I don't get to see them, which sucks. So I try to be productive. I try to work on writing, and every Christmas around that time, I'll put time aside for writing, and not working on other stuff. And at one point, I had wrote a sort of short parody of Naked Gun, but more like Police Squad, like the show that before it became Naked Gun. So I wrote this little, I don't know, 10-page short, and I think I called it Nude Weapon. And it was very much there's a joke in the movie
Yeah,
too.
it's in the
Yeah.
film. Yeah.
Yeah, so I called it Nude Weapon, and I always thought it was funny. There was like a crime, and he ended up stopping the evil studio head. And at the time, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's an interview of Luke, or not Luke Skywalker, the guy who played Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, as an older man now when the new Star Wars movies come out. And he's on stage with Kathleen Kennedy, and he's talking about, yeah, the new movies, whatever. I guess if you throw enough money at something, people will watch it no matter what. He's like, it's kind of like Transformers, they're not really good, but at least they're cool to look at. And Kathleen Kennedy is sitting there looking at him like, how dare you mock our film? And so that I was like, I want to make fun of that, And so slowly it evolved. I sat on the short for a while. Like I said, when I had decided to do something that would be about a detective in the film industry, I thought, well, hey, you've already got the groundwork. You've already got a short here with some funny characters and a cool concept. Dive into that. And so I expanded upon it. I think actually like when I opened it back up, I wrote the ending first. And it was kind of similar to what we have now with the projector and all that. But then I thought, okay, actually there was originally like a writer of a movie, and then he wrote a book, and then the studio killed him because he was interfering. He didn't like the way his book was being adapted. I still might do something with that. Maybe it could be, I don't think I'll probably ever do a real art too, but if so, I have other ideas. So then that evolved. No, I didn't like that. Let me do another draft. Some of the characters, changed throughout. But with the comedic timing and stuff, I love writing comedy. It's something that I've been doing for a while. I try to inject comedy in nearly everything I do. I hopefully am a funny person when you meet me in person. I've actually been doing stand-up since I wrote this film, because I had a lot of people saying you should try, and I know a lot of friends that do stand-up. That's been going great too. So yeah, it was kind of like knowing a lot about from my previous films, having maybe my own sort of comedic timing, cramming it with jokes. I mean, once I got the story done, I did a pass that was just like, let me inject a joke at every turn. And then the best part is, as the editor, I was able to then edit my own jokes. I was able to make them land. I was able to give a reaction shot when needed.
Just imagine what it could be capable of.
Finally helped the Cleveland Browns win a Super Bowl?
I suppose so.
Or cut on somebody, to make it funnier. So I think it actually helped me level up as a comedian and a comedic writer going through this process on this project.
The film is full of movie references. We just mentioned, the reference to Naked Gun. Now, how many Easter eggs are hidden in the real heart, and will you give us a prize if we spot them all?
Sure. There's a lot of Easter eggs. I had a friend who passed away, sadly, a little bit before making this movie. I hid his picture in there a couple times, a few references to him. Some of my old foster dogs you'll see on the mantle in the house. One really cool Easter egg that I'm proud of is, if you watch the old Naked Gun movies, even like everything that the Zucker brothers have done, they always, for some reason, hide a portrait of Davy Crockett in the background of all their films, even the scary movies. And it's not the classic, Davy Crockett that we know. It's the actual painting of Davy Crockett, which is so ridiculous. So if you watch, I won't tell you where, but he's seen a few times. Those same portraits are in our film.
Okay, I'll have to rewatch again. Awesome. Now, we love the puns and the sight gags that appear in the film. We particularly love how Osmaro Rojas delivers the comedic moments while still looking cute and believable as Macy. What films or directors are your comic influences, other than ones we mentioned so far? And what were your favorite sight gags in the film? Ours was, when Cade asks for a clue and Macy hands him the game Clue. So, or even Pink Canoe, that was also pretty
Yeah, I
fun.
would say that one was one of my favorites too. I love Judd Apatow. He's always been one of my favorites, and actually really enjoyed his master class. Found that very helpful. He's probably one of my favorite comedic directors. But I love Tim and Eric. If you've ever seen them, they're one of my favorites. There's a little bit of Tim and Eric style humor in here as well. Uh, and I think, like I said, like I obviously like Ace Ventura, I wanted to get in there. And I watched all these films that I've mentioned with director's commentary, got a lot of good notes from Tom Shadyac, who did the commentary, like 2 decades ago. But it was really cool and helpful. And I like I said, I did a lot of research into these projects, even watched the Naked Gun movies with their commentary. That was cool. Definitely Matt Parker and Trey Stone, the South Park guys. Come on, they're great. Even the new episodes I've been loving. So yeah, I love all that kind of stuff. And actually one of my favorite, I always crack up. I guess it's more of a sound effect gag. When she hands him the clue game, she's like, "Oh, it's here, whatever." And he's like, trying to get to the point, he just throws it to the side, right? I crammed so many dang breaking sound effects in that little part, and I crack up every time because he just throws a box and you just hear, So it was that type of stuff, and one thing that they do so well in all of the Zucker brothers movies, even Hot Shots. I don't know if you've ever seen those. The Texas Switch. We got a Texas Switch in there. I was really proud of it. That's when Cade walks in the door and then instantly walks out. So yeah, I'm really proud of some of these nerdy elements that we got in there. I'm not gonna lie.
Awesome. Now, did anything go on set go hilariously wrong to the point that you kept it in the movie because it just fit the chaos?
Oh man, the part I said I was still traumatized. Well, one thing that went wrong, I remember, we lost the plug. Okay, so I had a projector custom made so that we could put the horn in it and have a light shine out as a major prop. Major, has to do with the film. It had to be mystical and all that. So the prop guy built it in a way that it could be plugged in. We actually used an old PC computer and then doctored it up to look like a big projector, and he put the thing on there. Someone threw away the plug for it, and now we can't plug it in. I can't get the light going. No, and nobody can find it. No one knows where it is. Or well, actually, we didn't know where it was. We were like, where is it? And so I, the director, start just ripping through all the trash bins. And of course, found it. And I was kind of upset after I found it because I was like, why did it take me to be the one to look, there are these damn trash cans? So it is still a sore subject for me. But yeah, I will say there are a lot of funny little moments with Lance's physicality that maybe wasn't scripted that he brought to it. And that's one thing is you can load your script with jokes. And, I even had all these notes about all the Southern sayings that she was going to say. I had all that in there, and you can cram it. But at the end of the day, it takes a talented actor to see what's on the page and make it into something. And when you have a good actor is when they make it better than what you have on the page. And I think that's what we got a lot of times with these performances.
One last thing I really loved was the fake streamer logos that you made. That was so much fun because I recognized every one of them, of course.
Thanks. Yeah, that was all me again. Like, when I said I did that last pass on the draft, just like that was like, okay, so now we're gonna have all these execs here. So like how many funny names for companies can I come up with? And it was kind of a fun challenge, like Paramounds, Netflix, I think with a dollar sign, and then Scamazon.
Yeah.
So yeah, and all that stuff. What was cool too is like, I draw and like do a lot of designing and with my iPad with Procreate. So even the images of Ferdy, if you remember on the projector, which is one of my favorite scenes. Shout out to Jenny Wu as well. She just killed that part. All that stuff I had a really fun time actually creating. All the fake newspapers. That was all me just on my iPad, just designing funny stuff because I knew we needed it. Yeah, and I really like that element of being able to do that. Moving forward, do I want to do all that stuff? No. Do I want to be the one editing all this? No.
Picking the props is awesome. It's so much fun.
It really is. And I think like when you get to do it for something that you're so passionate about, especially like this, it ignites that, like I'm saying, that creativity, that spark that I used to have when I was a kid. And I was really needing that in my life. So that was awesome.
What other DIY things did you do on set?
A lot. We filmed at my house. The scene by the fireplace with Smokey happened right here at my fireplace right here. I have a garage, and what was cool was we actually shot 3 scenes in there and dressed it up differently each time. So the scene with Raven, our amazing goth girl played by Alessandra, that was in my garage. And then the part where he's being interrogated by Vancy, we just hung a bunch of curtains and shined a light above him. And then, the scene when he goes to the scene of the crime and finds the little pin and we have the safe. That was also my garage. So yeah, a lot of stuff like that.
I'd like you to tell us a little bit about how you arrived just across the board for the looks for everybody.
Shout out Emily Burrington. She was my hair and makeup artist. Absolutely crushed it. We had a few meetings. I showed her a bunch of concept pics. I even did some AI concept images of what I wanted her to look like. I did some sketches. She did such a good job with Vancy. And as she progressively gets crazier, we have some makeup smearing and hair getting messed up. With Lance, I knew right away I was going to put a dumb wig on him. It was like something I just knew. So I had the idea of having him be the main character, but I wasn't sure if he'd be able to make it out. And like I said, we had done some other auditions with other people, so it wasn't totally positive, but from knowing Lance and being his friend back in the day, he used to crash on my couch sometimes when he would come to LA. And he wears wigs. So he would wear like a flat top wig one day, and then the next day he's got like a little mini afro. And that's just begging to be in a movie. You know what I mean? So I told him, I said, dude, we're going to put like this ridiculous wig on you. Okay, great. And then, the part where obviously it comes off and you see his hair. And so then he had like a beard, and Emily took him in the back and they're working on the hair and makeup, and he comes out and he's like, I gotta leave the stash, man. I gotta leave the stash. I look ridiculous without it. And I'm like, no, that's it. The stash made it. So that was awesome too. With the color scheme, if you watch the old Police Squad, which I was very influenced by when I was, coming up with this, it was made in the 80s, so there's a lot of browns, a lot of earth tones. And so we went for that color scheme with every kind of wardrobe choice or background item. And shout out to my production designer, Hannah. She did such a great job finding so many cool things online. Really helped out with, bringing all these amazing props and even some of the wardrobe together. She was great. And so, yeah, I think we spent a lot of time leading up, in pre-production, plotting all this out and when the looks were going to look the way they did and whatnot. And I think one of my favorite shots of the film is when Vancy's wearing that red dress and she's standing there in her silhouette. Allie put the light on her so that you see her shadow, and she's like, yeah!
I'll merge them all into my conglomerate and I'll rise back to the top of Hollywood.
It is like evil Jessica Rabbit or something in that moment. And I just love the way it all came together. So I'm glad that you guys noticed that and registered that, because that is something that when you make a movie, you got to put a lot of time into that, and it will help. It'll show.
Thank you so much. I want to just ask a little question about Vancy. She really sparkled in your film. I mean, with all that sort of delicious sort of chaos. Yeah. She was just over the top. Were you ever giving her notes, or was she just being the performer, the consummate performer that she is?
So it started from when I finish my scripts. I like to read them and record them, then I can listen to it like an audiobook, and that's really helpful. I also act. I have a cameo in the film. So when I do this, I get into it, right? I get into the recording like it's an audiobook or something. I'm like doing all the voices, and I'm going back and forth, and my neighbors probably think I'm insane, but when it came time to read the script, one of the early drafts, I just started talking like this, and I'm like, where did that come from? I don't know. It was like I didn't start talking like that, but then it was like, as I was doing my reading, she became this character. And so when I was finished, I was like, okay, you gotta now as you revise it, like really lean into that Southern ridiculousness. And so, like I said, I had all these phrases that I, had a list of phrases, and then I made up my own phrases for her. So she was totally on board with all of that. She was always down, like, yeah, let's do that. I love it. I love it. But what I will say is that maniacal side, that over the top side. I mean, I'm like the type of director, because I act, like I'll act something out. Like, no, I want it to be more like, and she'll be like, oh, okay, okay. And she would do it 10 times better than I could. And then when I would get her on a tangent, I'd be like, okay, now give me like a bunch of those and keep turning up the dial. I mean, that would be my thing, is I would be like, give me like a mediocre one, now down a little more, now way over the top. And as an editor, you can then pick and choose in what moments you want her to be over the top. And so she was down to clown. She was always into it. I mean, I have got to give her props, because she wore costumes, that are not flattering at all. She was so cool to just, be this character and like totally mock this person who she was becoming. And I have to say, I saw the re-release of the original Batman movie in the theater, and Michael Keaton is just amazing as Batman. But you know what? Jack Nicholson kind of outshines him as the Joker. I mean, he is just such a phenomenal Joker. And I realized, kind of like, Lance absolutely kills it as Cade, but Vancy, she kind of steals the show. Let's be honest, she kind of steals the show. And I was just so proud of her, and in the comments we got from people afterwards, because she really deserved it. She worked really hard to bring this character to life. For moving forward, I think this movie really did inspire me to lean into these characters. Don't be afraid to write a ridiculous character. Write a character with a crazy accent. Write a character who's just so phenomenally awkward and weird. And that's kind of me. Like, I'm kind of all these characters in the film. And so I really am inspired moving forward to bring that level of performance, with these guys that I'm bringing to life. So look out for more of that coming, for my hopeful future projects.
What have you learned about yourself through the making of this film?
I learned that I am a writer-director of a feature film, damn it. And as I mentioned, this was a dream that I had since I was a child. I can literally remember going in the backyard with my toys, setting up this camera, filming them with my hands, doing stop motion with my brothers, me and my brothers dressing up in costumes. My mom telling me one time, I remember I was sitting on the couch making some movie with puppets or something, and my mom's on the phone and she's like, Jonathan, my friend says one day you're going to be a famous director, and I'm like, I do that, and I don't know anybody else that has had a dream since childhood that is in their 40s and still doing it, and I'm so dang proud of myself for never giving up, because it hasn't been easy. I suffer with depression and all this. I've had a lot of ups and downs, but in the end, it's also the thing that saved me, my creativity. You see how excited I get just talking about core memory and my idea for this next project. It's like I come to life. I feel like I have a purpose in life. Like, this is my calling, and I've been able to show what I did on this film to employers, and potentially, hopefully, maybe getting budgets for new projects, setting meetings, now having a film on Tubi. So all of this, I feel like, just moved the needle in the direction that I always was trying to go. Now that I'm doing stand-up, it's so exciting to get up there and be like, I've got a feature film. Everybody should check it out. Meeting other comedians. Yeah, check out my movie. So it taught me that if you have a dream, I'm someone that can stick to it and follow it. And I'm always going to live that, no matter how tough it may be. I know now that I can do it. And just having that notch on my belt it's gotten me through some rough times over the last few years since making this film.